She knew it, but not the whole school. And the parents tell me, they're like, I have kids now, but I don't want to have play dates at my house. I can't take that risk. That is horrible. Like clients said, I can't go to daddy-daughter dance. One got threatened to be arrested at his son's high school football game. Said, if you come back here, we're going to arrest you. They can't adopt a child if you're on the registry. Good luck ever trying to date somebody with a child, because the ex will come in and say, hey, this person's with a sex offender. And then the mother will get threatened with abuse or neglect. So then that relationship's broken up. Educational opportunities. There's a college out west, west part of Michigan, I can't remember which one. It says they will not accept sex offenders now. Can't live in dorms usually.
Since most of these potential candidates are poor, is there any, would you have to send them for a risk assessment or something like that? Is there anywhere to get, how would that cost?
You got to ask the person doing the assessment, plead to them, try to do a sliding scale. I don't know if they'd ever do it for free. I don't know. And that's the other thing with the indigent population. I hope, and I don't know if the Wayne County Public Defender's Office will take them. I know Legal Aid Defender's Office will. They'll take the indigent ones because they say because our grant for legal aid says we have to help people who are denied employment or housing. Sex offenders are denied those two things, so we help the sex offenders do these petitions. They can't join the armed forces, can't be in Boy Scouts of America, can't do volunteer activities. I think the worst, though, is the label they have and the paranoia. I can't tell you, every day my clients are in fear. They walk down the street, they don't look people in the eye, they're looking over their shoulder going, what's going to happen to me today? Who's going to find out I'm on the registry? Who's going to tape a notice of my registration to my front door? Who's going to put it on my car windshield? Who's going to go tell all my neighbors? Because all those things happen. It's, you know, it's an invisible prison. It really is. And I think that the mental health problems stemming from being on the registry are the worst.
It seems like the Supreme Court may have given the trial judge, though, an out. If the trial judge feels, for whatever reason, they can just fail to sentence him as a sex offender, or would that be tantamount to judicial misconduct?
I don't know. Who cares? I like that attitude.
A judge can give credit on parole, but then the Department of Corrections will just send it back and say you can't do that. I mean, you follow me?
Yeah, I follow you. I don't know. I know. I think it's better to have the judge just say it's not a catch-all, but then you can appeal, and then the prosecutors can. I don't know if they could.
Cheryl, could you talk briefly about the recapture
Yeah.
provision?
Yes.
Because we got to talk about that.
Right. Okay. The recapture provision, which is a very murky area of the law and something very important to tell your clients. If you get them off the registry, they can go back on if they pick up a felony offense. Any felony. They can get arrested for possession of cocaine. If they catch it, that begs the question, who's going to figure that out? I don't know. If they do, they go back on for however long they should have, lifetime.
Cheryl, it does not mean the recapture applies even to federal felonies.
Federal felonies.
Right now, who has never been on the Michigan Sex Offender Registry. This crime occurred, 40 years ago, and he was never grandfathered onto the registry. He picks up a federal case. A condition of his federal supervised release is that he must register under the Michigan Sex Offender Registry. Miriam's already got it.
Okay, good. You're in good hands. I get so many complicated.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing that's, well, when this statute came out, the one thing that it says if you never had to register before for whatever reason, under the law, but you get a new felony, you have to register for what you did. I think when you read that statute by its plain language, it means, let's say I committed a CSC 1 back in 1947,
Right.
and I got out of prison in 1957. before the Sex Offender Registration
Right.
Act applied. So I wasn't on parole or in custody when the Sex Offender Act applied in what, the 80s? What is it?
October 1st of 1995.
Okay, of 95. So now if you get a new felony of any kind, by the plain language of the statute,
You go back on.
You have to register for the rest of your life because you previously were convicted of a CSC 1 back in 1947.
So,
That's what the law said.
so can we count on you to reduce all those to misdemeanors?
No, we haven't. We don't know how we're going to address this issue.
It's important for plea
We don't know how we're
bargaining.
going to address this issue and whether we have a notice requirement to tell defendants this when we charge them with new felonies or not. We don't know how to address this issue because, to be honest with you, it hasn't come up yet.
I know, but I think you could go back if they're not informed by pleading guilty to a new felony. Then Fonville, that's ineffective assistance of counsel. They didn't do a knowing plea. So make that argument if nobody ever tells them. I think you have to tell them. I don't do misdemeanors, because if it's a misdemeanor, it's fine. If it's a felony, 1 year or up, I know. Yeah, you can't do that for a murder case.
One more thing before everyone leaves. I want to make sure we have someone. Yes, no, you have to come up here. Laura Weingart's come up here very briefly. There's been Cheryl has talked, and I know she's not done to answer the questions. She has talked about filing motions for relief from judgment to get people removed out of the registry. Laura Weingart from our office is going to address very briefly the procedure our office would like you to follow if you're going to follow any of those motions.
Okay, this won't take more than 5 minutes. I wanted to comment on something Cheryl said earlier about notifying your clients who plead to CSE 2 about the electronic tether requirements. He only is going to be electronically tethered if he goes to prison. If he gets straight probation or probation and jail time, there is no requirement for electronic tether. I have a Court of Appeals case. I didn't bring it with me, but if you ever need it, come see me. Okay, so this is what happens when you are filing something in Wayne County. I ask that you bring it to me. We log it in and we keep a list of all the people who have petitioned. And that is important because, as Cheryl said, they only get one shot. So we're going to keep records of this so that they can't get it denied once and then come back later and try again. As you know, we have to notify the victims. And this is the hardest part of all. If a crime occurred, say, in the late 80s or early 90s, the victims are long gone. We don't have a police file. We don't have a prosecutor file. We can't find these people. So we order the police file, and out county it's probably easier to get their old files, but in Detroit it's next to impossible. We ask, it's in storage somewhere in some rat-infested building. Eventually, hopefully someone will go look for it. We beg them to look. We also order the court file, and we look in the court file to see, is the victim's name here, a most recent address, whatever. So any information that you have about the victim, especially on these Romeo and Juliet cases, often the defendant knows who the girl is, whether she's gotten married and changed her name, what her birthday was, and even maybe where she is today. And of course, don't have him contact her, but give us as much information as you have about the victim. We will then have an investigator put her through the lien system, through Social Security, driver's licenses, whatever, and we will try to find her. But it's a huge, huge hassle. And the more information you can give us, the smoother this will go, and we'll get this processed faster. So as Cheryl said, we have to notify the victim. We can send her a letter. We give her the options. She can appear, she can not appear, she can write a letter, she can object, not object, or we may have to have a consent hearing. If we do hold the consent hearing, our unit, the child abuse unit, will do the actual hearing. But in the interim, after I collect all the information, I'm going to pass it to our appellate division, someone named Marilyn Eisenbraun. She's the one who's going to respond to the petition, agree with it or disagree, and represent us in court, unless there's a consent hearing, and then our unit will do it. Let's see. As defense attorneys, we've talked about if a client hires you to do this kind of work, what about all those guys who can't afford a lawyer and aren't very smart in the first place and can't read a statute and understand what's required in filing a petition? I hope someone in the defense bar is addressing that issue. At a minimum, someone should draft a dummy petition with step-by-step instructions of how to do this and have someone on call for help. Because otherwise, the only guys who are going to get off the registry are the ones who can afford to hire a lawyer. If any of you want more information on this whole thing, next Friday at the State Bar Conference at the Dearborn Hyatt Regency, the criminal law section is doing a 2-hour discussion, a panel discussion about this, the new sex offender registry. And there's different speakers than you've seen here today. So if you want more information about it, that would be the place to go. That's it. Anyone have any questions?
Cheryl has one more thing.
Successful in getting them off the registry, make sure you have them Google their names, because there's secondary websites that will capture them as sex offenders. If you don't get them removed, it's going to haunt them later on down the line. There's lots of it. It takes hours to do that. But
did everyone hear that? That even after you take them off the registry, do additional searches to make sure they're not on secondary websites listing them as sex offenders. Thank you very much.